So here's another interesting name that's been connected some places with the Browns. So defensive tackle Christian Wilkins, good chance to avoid the franchise tag, hit the open market and free agency. Browns, along with the Texans, have been mentioned as potential landing spots to watch to lure the 28-year-old defensive tackle away from Miami. So if we take a look, here's some of the rankings for Wilkins relative to defensive tackles a season ago. 8th in TFLs, 5th in sacks with 9, 9th in pressures. Again, those are interior defensive guys, not the edge rushers. But actually, Ashley, in Jim Schwartz's system, he wants a guy that pressures from the middle of the defense. That kind of sets everything else up.
Yeah, he's talked about extensively. He wants those guys in the middle to be my favorite Jim Schwartzism ever, maybe Ferraris and not dump trucks. I think there was some confusion last year on what that phrase meant. It basically means he doesn't want those guys to get stuck in the two gap and just have to eat up blockers. He wants them to get in the pocket, get after quarterbacks. And those numbers right there for him, I think he'd be that Ferrari that you want. My one question is, will the Browns, because before last year, we had not seen Andrew Berry willing to spend a ton at D tackle until they signed Dalvin Tomlinson. Now, the nice thing is with that deal, Dalvin Tomlinson still has a pretty low cap hit going into this season. I don't remember it right off the top of my head. I believe it's still in the single digits. Next year is when that cap hit starts getting more closer to that $20 million cap hit. So I am curious because they did spend big last year. I'm also curious to see if, hey, when they are on the clock in the draft, if they end up keeping that number 54 pick, there's some nice D tackles in this draft. So would they go that route again and maybe get a guy like Mason Smith, who I've wrote extensively about after being in India, joked he's kind of like my combine crush that I get every year. It's like one player who you become convinced they would fit in perfectly on the Browns. So genuinely, I'm curious if we will see Andrew Berry willing to spend big in free agency, or maybe he could get the price right somehow, some other way. We know these guys are experts at managing the cap, but I'd be curious to see if he's willing to spend big on a veteran DT to beef that up even further. We do know they have 3 guys who are kind of set to become free agents. It sounds like Jordan Elliott, Mo Hurst, Shelby Harris, all those guys, their contracts are up. So there's room there to add some depth depending on who comes back in that room. But it's an interesting question just because we haven't seen Andrew Berry spend a ton there yet outside of Tomlinson.